Hello, my most amazing artists. How are you today? We're going to work on making an intricate snowflake, and all you will need today will be a piece of computer paper, some scissors, a ruler if you have it, or anything else with a hard edge that you can crease your edges of your snowflake as you fold it. Now, if for some people you might have an issue with cutting with scissors if they're not pretty sharp, and if you have a parent or an older sibling around that can help you, some sharper scissors will help, but only if you have a parent's permission to use them. To start off, we need to make our paper into a square. Now, any paper will do. If you've got newspaper, the thinner the paper, the better. Newspaper is great if you happen to have that around too. Doesn't matter what size, but whatever size it is, we can always make it into a square. We start that by folding the short edge over to the long edge. We're going to fold it right on this corner right here. So I'm going to pull it down until this is vertical, straight up and down. It shouldn't be at an angle, but vertical. And I'm going to bring this corner all the way down. Make sure it folds right on the corner at the top. And once it's straight, I hold it in place and I smooth out my edge. Now, where that ruler comes in handy is for making the crease more sharp. And this makes it easier to cut, and it makes it an easier, the paper thinner and an easier edge to cut on. So to make this into a square, we're going to use our scissors and we're going to cut along this line right here and cut that little section off. Okay, we can toss that and put it aside. Once we have this, we're going to fold down the middle and we're just going to fold it over, line those edges up. The better you line it up and the better you make your creases, the easier it will be to cut. When you have a really crooked fold and creases aren't very sharp, then you end up having a harder time cutting. So take this and rub it down. Rub down that one. Sometimes people will take the inside of their scissors and do it. I tend to be a little nervous with the sharp edge of the scissors, but that will work if that's all you've got. Okay, now we've got the smaller triangle. We're going to do one more fold in the middle here, and this is just going to be a guideline on where to fold the next side. So I don't really have to crease that well just yet. Okay, I'm going to take one of my edges and I'm going to fold it so this edge lines up with the center of that guideline. That edge I will need to crease with my ruler. And then I'm going to make another fold over. I'm just going to fold this way. Push it down. Once again, I'm going to use my ruler and crease it out. Now, you can leave it at this point and you can tell it's correct if it's got kind of a Star Trek symbol to it. It would be a little open here. You can cut right here and it will make a beautiful snowflake. But if you want to make a more intricate one with smaller designs and you have a good pair of scissors and good control, you can fold it down one more. But for this one, I'm just going to keep it right here where I have some thinner edges and it's not quite as thick to cut through. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off this edge right here. This will keep my snowflake from being a square. Okay, so I'm just going to cut straight across. For this part, if you want a hole in the center, you would cut the tip off. As you cut, these seams are very important, or these folds, to make sure you have sections in between what you cut out to make sure it still stays connected. If I were to take my scissors and cut this whole side, my snowflake would fall apart. Those seams are pretty important. So I always like to start with cutting off the edge. I'm going to cut it off at a diagonal at the bottom. Now, when you're cutting, use the very inside of your scissors. That's the sharpest part where you have the most control. If you're trying to snip all the way out here, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to start cutting just some triangles or squares and turning it. The more detailed shapes you might want to do on this edge here, but triangles are pretty easy to do, and they can be all kinds of triangles. They can be big ones or small ones. And notice I'm using the inside of my scissors where it's really hard to cut. If you want to have an interesting shape at the top, you can cut along this top edge. Maybe I'll do a little bit of a curve and try to cut nice and slow. A wavy line. Bring it to a point. All right. I'll go here and maybe I can do a curve and then cut this off. Now I don't want to cut all the way down that side because it's the fold and it will end up breaking. So I'm leaving part of my fold at the top here so it stays connected. And then I'm going to cut this straight there. And then I can leave a gap where the fold is. And I can do another fun shape. Kind of just a made up one. I have a little bit of room right here. I might just go ahead and do half of a heart. Let's see what that does. Go up and around, make sure not to cut off the edge. And I want to keep part of my fold in there. So when I'm coming back around, I'm going to make sure to bring my heart off so I have some of my fold in there. You can always add some little thing maybe in the wave right here. I'll do a little triangle here and any other details that you want to add. If you cut really large shapes all the way to the middle, you might have some fun things going on too. Let's see what this does. So I'm going to move all my shapes out of the way. Open it up carefully so it doesn't tear. And you can see where all my edges were that I didn't cut are keep holding it together. So if you do this and it falls apart, you can always make another one. So that's how that one came out. With lots of interesting shapes going on in there. Okay. Now that I have my Star Trek fold again, I'm going to fold this one once more and get a more intricate design on it. So I'm going to fold it right down that center and over. And it may have a little overhang on the other side. That's okay. You do need to try to cut through to that part. So I'm going to take this and crease it really well. Okay. So now that I have my smaller piece, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the tip here. I'm going to cut, you can cut it straight off or even cut it at an angle. I'll cut this one at an angle just to see what it does. Okay. Then I'm going to cut my tip off because I always like to leave a hole in the middle. I'm going to cut this one at an angle. Just be careful and watch your fingers. And make sure if you cut with that inside of the scissors, you're going to have a lot more control. All right, so I'm going to cut some big shapes out of this one, but try not to cut all the way to the edge. Kind of doesn't want to come apart in there. Then without really cutting my crease right here, I think I have a really small area. I'm going to cut where it's going to leave a gap right here. And I'm going to leave this fold. There's a little bit of fold here. I'm going to cut so there's a narrow space here. And I'm going to do a triangle. Now, one of the fun things you can do to make it more intricate is once I have this cut out, I have my folds, my creases here, so it's not going to tear. I can actually cut a piece out from the inside on this edge. Making sure to keep my fingers out of the way and using that back part of the scissors where I have more control. Kind of twist that until they pop out. I'm going to do leaving a gap where the fold, so the fold is still there and or the crease is there and I don't end up cutting off the whole side. Triangle, and inside. Okay. Maybe I'll cut a bit of an angle here at the top. Okay. And I'm going to cut pieces away from the pieces that I've already cut away. So kind of taking it without one step further. Now over here, I don't have a fold on this edge, so I don't have to really leave gaps to keep it together. All right, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna leave a gap here. I'm gonna go in this way. Try to turn my scissors around. And go for some more interesting shapes. All right, let's see what that does. Now the unfolding part with these really thin sides, you have to take your time. I know it's exciting, but we're gonna open it kind of flat here. Section by section. And there we go. We have a lot more detail in that design. So here's the first one, a little bit less detail and smaller shapes, still just as beautiful. And then the second one. So you can make all kinds of things. Look at that. That looks kind of like a cat or a fox or something like that that's in there. Hang it on your Christmas tree or by your fireplace as some beautiful winter Christmas decorations. Hope you guys have fun with this.